Let's talk about Trump's pharma tariff shock, implications for India and the global drug market. Hello, you are watching the Global Eye with me, Mosmi. In late September 2025, this year, US President Donald Trump announced a sweeping new tariff measure targeting the pharmaceutical industry. Beginning October 1st, all imported, branded, or patented medicines will face a 100% tariff unless the exporting company is already building a manufacturing plant in the United States. This move comes on top of earlier tariffs that had already raised duties on Indian goods by 50%. While Indian officials and industry leaders emphasize that generics accounting for 90% of India's US exports remain exempt, this announcement has triggered anxiety. India supplies nearly half of all generic prescriptions in the US, saving American patients and insurers over $200 billion annually. The threat that tariffs could escalate further to 150% or even 250% raises deep concerns for India's multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical export industry, global supply chains, and US healthcare affordability. Now, what happened? The announcement. On social media, President Trump declared a 100% tariff on imported, branded, and patented drugs from October 1st, sparing only companies investing in US plants. And the context? This follows earlier trade measures against India, including a 50% tariff on a wide range of goods. The pharma move signals a new escalation in the trade war. And let's know what's the immediate market impact. Indian pharma stocks saw volatility with investors unsettled about how branded generics, biosimilars, and complex generics would be classified. Now, why this move? Reshoring manufacturing. The stated goal is to bring pharmaceutical production back to American soil using tariffs as leverage. And national security, the administration has previously invoked security grounds for trade actions, arguing that dependency on foreign drug imports could endanger the US healthcare system. Under trade leverage, this measure also fits into the broader trade conflict with India, including disputes over oil purchases from Russia and market access. Now, the key facts to remember are India supplies about 47% of US generic prescriptions, anchoring America's low cost drug system. Indian generics have delivered over $1.3 trillion in savings to the US healthcare systems in the past decade. India's pharmaceutical exports to the US are worth $9 to $10 billion annually. Generics are currently exempt, but branded generics, complex generics, and biosimilars may fall into a gray zone. Outcomes and risks if tariffs stay narrow, specifically branded and patented only. Minimal direct impact on Indian generics exporters. Higher prices in the US for branded drugs from Europe and Japan. If extended to branded generics and biosimilars, significant disruption to Indian exporters of complex medicines could be seen. Possible shortages in certain therapeutic categories in the US, and if raised to 150 to 250% across the board, Indian exports to the US could collapse for affected lines. US healthcare costs would soar, with insurers and patients bearing the burden. And drugs shortages could emerge, especially in essential medicines with few suppliers. Let's know what's India's response. Diplomatic engagements. The Indian government has said it is closely monitoring the situation and will likely push for clarification and carve out through talks with Washington. Let's see if talks could actually bring out a solution. And the industry strategy, major Indian pharma firms are assessing whether existing US subsidiaries and facilities could qualify for exemptions while also preparing to diversify exports toward Europe, Africa, and Latin America. What are the legal and trade options? India could challenge the tariffs at the WTO or consider limited retaliatory measures, but this carries risks of escalation. There are strategic challenges, ambiguity. The lack of clarity over how branded versus generic is defined creates uncertainty. And exemption by investment, building new US facilities could take 3 to 10 years and cost billions, making exemptions impractical in the near term. And the global disruption, redirecting Indian exports to other markets is possible but insufficient to absorb the scale of supply. What are the possible outcomes in the coming months? Negotiated settlements. India and the US may strike a deal limiting the scope of tariffs or offering transitional exemptions. Industry consolidation. Larger Indian firms may accelerate US investments while smaller exporters suffer. And healthcare impact, if escalation continues, American patients may face higher cost and reduced access to affordable medicines. Now, will reshoring pharmaceutical production to the US genuinely strengthen national security or simply increase cost for American patients? If nearly half of US generics come from India, can America afford a policy that risks shortages in essential medicines? Could escalating tariffs backfire politically in the US if voters face rising healthcare costs? Should Indian firms rush to invest in US plants or diversify into other global markets to reduce reliance on the American market? How might this dispute reshape the global pharmaceutical supply chain, and will it trigger regionalization of drug manufacturing? Could this be the beginning of a broader strategy where the US uses tariffs to dominate critical healthcare supply chains? Now, the bottom line is Trump's 100% pharma tariff marks a major escalation in trade tensions. While Indian generics appear safe for now, the precedent is alarming. If tariffs expand to cover branded generics or even standard generics, India's $10 billion US pharma export industry could be severely undermined. The policy may secure some US jobs in the long run, but in the short term, it risks higher drug prices and also potential shortages and a rupture in the global pharmaceutical supply chain. India's best options lie in tough diplomacy, rapid clarification of product categories, and preparing backup strategies for market diversification. Let's see what happens next. For more updates and insights, keep watching The Global Eye.